Hello, Australia. I'm Wayne Rice, and I'm on the staff of the Legacy Coalition in the USA. For quite a few years, I was director of all the conferences that the Legacy Coalition put on. I'm now the podcast host. We have a podcast called Legacy Grandparenting, and I think you can get it in Australia, so I hope you'll tune us in. It's great to be with you in Australia. I love Australia, and thanks to Ian Barnett and the National Grandparenting Movement for inviting me to be part of your conference this year. It's an honor, and we're going to have a lot of fun here in a very short amount of time. I love Australia. I've been there. I've visited places like Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne and Adelaide. I've even been to Perth. And so I've been all around the country, and it's a lot like the USA. It really is. There are some weird things. For example, you people drive on the wrong side of the road. All of your seasons show up at the wrong time of the year. But otherwise, most everything is pretty much the same. And I would imagine that grandparenting is very much the same as well. I wrote a book called Long Distance Grandparenting. It's a book about what happens and what you can do when your grandkids move away from you. Which sometimes happens, or maybe you move away from your grandkids, or something happens that makes you a long-distance grandparent. That's what I am. My wife and I became long-distance grandparents. Our kids grew up, they went away to college, and then when they got married and they had kids of their own, they moved away for jobs that took them far away. Our kids live mostly up in Seattle, Washington. We live in San Diego, California. If you know your geography, that's a pretty long distance away. It's about the same distance, I think, as Brisbane is from Melbourne. It's about that far. And so we don't get to see our grandkids very often unless we're very intentional about it and figure out what to do, which is really what this little session is all about. If you're a long-distance grandparent, the way I look at it is you have two choices. One, you can use distance as an excuse for basically not doing anything with your grandkids. And I know a lot of grandparents who take that route. They just say, well, our grandkids live so far away. All this intentional grandparenting stuff, that's for somebody else. But there's another choice you can make, and that is distance can become an opportunity, or maybe I would say a reason for being more involved rather than less with your grandkids. It becomes a motivator. And that's what it's become for us. Because our grandkids live so far away, it's really made us much more intentional than we would have been. In fact, than we were when our grandkids actually lived just down the street. Days would go by before we ever got in touch with them, sometimes weeks. But now that they're far away, we have to do things to stay in touch, to stay connected. I was also a long-distance grandkid. My grandparents lived way across the country. Our grandparents did not have the means to stay in touch with us like we have to stay in touch with our grandkids today. And so I experienced what it was like to have grandparents that I rarely ever got a chance to see. And let me just tell you something. Even though we never got to see our grandparents very often, they had a powerful influence on myself and my brothers and my sister, all of us grandkids, just because of who they were, and they took advantage of the times that we did get together. The book has dozens of ideas, maybe more than 100, but I'm going to give you 4 right now. Number 1 is keep your grandkids visible. By that, I mean, there's an old saying, out of sight, out of mind. If you don't see your grandkids often, you're probably not going to think about them very much. So plaster your house with pictures of your grandkids. You know, we have a little display that we've set up in our house, actually more than one, where we just have pictures of our grandkids that we walk by constantly. We also have a really cool little device that we use called Frameo. It's an electronic picture frame. And you've seen those before, you know, where you can put pictures of your family and then program it so it kind of gives you a little slideshow during the day. Well, the thing that's cool about Frameo, and I'm sure there are other brand names as well that are just like this, is our grandkids and our kids have an app on their phone where they can send pictures to our Frameo from anywhere they are. And so constantly we're getting new pictures of our grandkids, and we put it on our dining room table, and every evening my wife and I get to eat dinner to a really cool little slideshow of our grandkids going by. It reminds us of our grandkids. It keeps them in the forefront of our mind, and so we're always thinking, what can we do to get connected with them in a more personal way? Which brings up idea number 2, and that is make plans. There's another saying that if you don't plan it, it's not going to happen, and that's usually true. And so, when you're a long distance grandparent, it becomes very important for you to sit down, open up your planning calendar, and start putting your grandkids on your calendar. How often do you want to see them? How often do you want to go where they are? How often do you want them to come where you are? You're going to need to make some plans and put them on your calendar. By the way, the Legacy Coalition has come out with an annual planning calendar that you can purchase, and it's got all kinds of great ideas for grandparents, but it's a calendar that you can use if you want to have an actual hard copy type calendar where you plan out things that you do with your grandkids. But also put them in your budget. It's expensive. When you're a long distance grandparent, you probably have some kind of a vacation budget. Budget some of that money for times when you can be with your grandkids, where you fly to them or you fly them. My wife is disabled, and so we're unable to travel to see our grandkids. So we bring them to us, and sometimes we have to send them the plane tickets. But we do that, and we plan. That's part of our budget, part of our plans to make that happen. All I'm saying is, if you're a long-distance grandparent, make plans to be with and to connect with your grandkids. Third idea is take advantage of the technology that we have available to us today. There's so much. As I mentioned, my grandparents, they not only didn't have phones. They had to like drive to the next town to make a phone call. They lived up in a holler, and you know what a holler is? It's like up out in the woods, but we couldn't call them. They couldn't call unless they actually went somewhere else to do it. But nowadays, we have so much great technology available to us. I'd venture to say that pretty much every one of your grandkids have one of these. And they can not only call you or text you, and you call them and text them, but you can video chat. And so we do Zoom calls with our family, and it's almost miraculous, the kinds of interaction, the kinds of family time that you can have with technology of various kinds. Old school technology is still good as well. I'm talking about, like snail mail. Grandkids love to get mail. They still do. We love to send our kids things in the mail. We're running across family heirlooms, and so we'll send them money. That'll brighten their day, but it's a good way to stay connected. Use the mail, use ordinary telephones. My wife and our granddaughter, Maddie, who's now 20 years old, they have a regular time every week when they call each other. And our son, Maddie's dad, has told me that those phone calls mean more to Maddie than just about anything else that she does. Use the technology. There's so much of it that's available to us right now. And I'd venture to say that all of your kids and your grandkids have that technology at their fingertips. Phones, computers, other devices that make it possible. And if you don't know how to use it, your grandkids will teach you. I even learned how to play video games online with one of my grandkids, and there's a learning curve, but it's well worth it. The last idea I want to leave for you is this one, and that is pray like crazy. The shortest distance between you and your grandkids is the Lord. It's prayer. There is no such thing as long-distance grandparenting when it comes to prayer. And I would encourage you to pray daily for your grandkids. I have a cousin. His name is Justin Rice, and he lives in Tennessee still. And he has 7 grandkids. And one year for Christmas, he asked all of his grandkids to send him a coffee mug with their picture on it. And now every day, what Justin does is on Monday. Well, Monday is Devin Day, and Tuesday is Karen Day, and so on, as he remembers his grandkids and prays for them specifically on that day, and drinks coffee from his coffee cup. And sometimes he'll take a selfie and send it to his grandkids, or send a text message or something to let them know that on their day that he specifically is praying for them. But I think, what a great idea. I've got 5 grandkids, and so Monday, Tuesday, I've got a day for each of my grandkids where I really go to the Lord for each one of them. And my wife and I pray for all of our grandkids every single day, every evening when we say our prayers together. But pray for them. God loves your grandkids even more than you do. And when we commit them to Him, we can expect great things. You know, we may never see the growth that takes place in our kids' lives, or how they end up living out their faith over the years. But we are hopeful that God is not finished with our grandkids yet. And some of His best work in their lives may take place even after we're gone. That's okay with us. But meanwhile, we just keep praying for them. Thank you so much for having me here at your conference by video. And let me just wish all of you, especially those of you who are long-distance grandparenting, a great life of intentional Christian grandparenting.